Welcome to your Healing Place podcast with Linda and Mindy. It is our desire to address common concerns of how abortion and faith intersect in order to validate the emotional pain and grief that abortion can bring and give hope that recovery is possible.
I don't know that it was as much anger because I had two issues going into
Okay.
the decision around having an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And one part was I got pregnant like maybe 5 weeks before our wedding day.
Right.
And we planned the wedding in about 2.5 months. And there was, the little chatter of she's probably pregnant. She's probably pregnant.
Mm.
And I heard about that. I didn't even know I was pregnant.
Mm.
I didn't know I was pregnant until like maybe 2, 3 weeks before the wedding date. I
Mm-hmm.
was going in to get the pill, and of course, they do a pregnancy test.
Mm.
Positive. I had no idea. None.
Okay. Okay.
So, I was not going to bring shame down on my father
Right.
mainly,
Right.
without even talking to him. That's the sad part.
Right.
Without ever, I mean, I know he would have been great,
Mm.
but I just, they were not going to be right. It was a total pride. It was a total that. However, when I told Derek, it was like, well, we are not having this baby.
Mm.
Absolutely not. And it was just like, but where's my choice in this?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I had a voice. I did not speak up for my child.
Right.
And after going through Forgiven and Set Free, I realized that I did have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Right.
chose, I chose the wrong thing to pick. Um, but those were the two things. Had he said, it's going to be great, it'll be fine,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have done it.
But I
But
remember, I remember you saying you didn't realize all the anger that you had towards him because every time you got pregnant, you were afraid to tell him. And you
oh,
kind of had harboring this anger that didn't really surface until that study. That's kind of what I was thinking about. And
right.
that's kind of what I'm thinking. So, did you even know you were angry with
Not
him?
really. Not really. I don't even know if it was anger or fear,
Mm.
honestly. It was almost like it was a fear of, oh my gosh, what if he says that same thing?
Mm.
Then what? No, I won't do it again. But
Hmm.
what happens to the relationship? Um, but more than really being angry, I think the anger part comes in. It should have been such a joyful time.
Yes.
We wanted children. It was okay to have more children. It was never, we're only having one, or, it was never that. It was just this missing out on the joy. I mean, even now when I watch movies or hear about, how a friend tells their
Yeah.
husband that they're pregnant and everyone's so
Yeah.
happy,
Yeah.
and they have the reveal parties and all that.
Hmm.
I missed that
And all
completely
of your children
in all of my babies.
because of the fear. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have just come into a conversation that Karen and I were having on your Healing Place podcast. And Karen Lush, I'm sorry, am I saying that correctly? Say it again. Looks. Okay. Um,
Perfect.
she is our board secretary for an even place. Karen and I met in a coaching class a couple of years ago. We were coaching buddies. We had two coaching buddies through that whole time, and she was my first coaching buddy. I was her first. And we just got to talking and got to know each other. And here she is today. Well, she ended up going through a Forgiven and Set Free class with us. To be able to step onto the board. And I wanted her to come and share her story. So you heard a little bit of it, and I'm going to have her back up and come into just kind of what led up to that, where you were in your mentality and your spirituality, because I know you were in the church, I know you were saved, and then what led to the decision to have an abortion through all of that.
Well, I was saved young, but I was living my teenage years just exactly the way I wanted to.
Mm,
And I never doubted that Jesus was there. Never thought about it either. I mean, I would party with my friends and do all the things that I knew were not right because I was hiding them from my Christian parents.
mm,
Um, and my husband moved in across the street from me when I was a freshman in high school.
mm.
And we started dating at 16 because I couldn't date before then.
Yeah,
And but when I was engaged at 18, almost 18, we started having sex. And I knew it was wrong, but there again, I was doing exactly what I wanted to.
yeah,
And we decided to get married and started planning at the age of 19 our wedding. And when I went in to get the pill, I was told I was pregnant. So this was like 2 weeks before our wedding. And I told my husband, or my fiance at the time, that I was pregnant. And he just, no way. We are not having a baby right now. We are absolutely, I am not ready. I do not want this. And in the back of my mind is, well, I don't want to bring shame on my family. I
mm,
didn't, even though I know that my parents would have been would have been okay.
mhm,
It would have been okay, even if I had chosen to have the baby on my own. But wasn't even, I never even asked the Lord, what should we do?
mm.
I just on my honeymoon that's what I got to do.
Oh,
My honeymoon, when it should have been just such a fun time,
wow,
we we stuck around, or around where we lived to be able to do that. And it was just a very, very dark time and a dark decision. And that's how we started off our marriage.
wow.
And so fast forward 5 years later, when we had our first child, I I wanted for her what I had growing up. So I started going to church and
Mm,
actually listening. And I rededicated my life to the Lord. And the first thing I asked for forgiveness for was that abortion
yeah,
because it weighed so heavy on me.
sure.
Um, so, and I knew I was forgiven. I
Yeah,
did. I really knew it, but it was like a ball and chain. It followed me everywhere.
sure.
It was like someone one time told me, if you keep asking for forgiveness for the same thing, then you don't believe Jesus died on the cross for your sins.
Exactly,
And I thought,
exactly.
wow,
Good
that's,
friend.
yeah,
That's a
right.
good friend.
Yeah,
So I'm just curious, real quick, what was that like? I mean, your marriage starts with abortion.
yeah.
What did that do to you two emotionally and spiritually and mentally in terms of your relationship? I mean, you're supposed to be, in the first days, like you mentioned in the brief intro to this, that all of the joy was sucked out of every single birth that you had now about because you lived with this fear and sort of this underlying maybe anger a little bit, but your relationship with your husband too. You guys are supposed to be, in having a great, first 5 years of just getting to know each other, playing, doing all these things. How did that change that or affect that, do you think?
Well, a we were not still, I mean, those first 5 years, we were not living for the Lord at all. In fact, my
Right.
husband didn't even come to be saved until I want to say 1990, probably.
Okay.
So that's 10 years after our first child was born.
Okay.
So not having Christ as the head of your family is you're in a category of you're not single,
Right.
but you're single. You're, you're single as far as um, the church is concerned because you don't fit into the marrieds and you don't fit into the singles. So I always felt like there was just no place for me to be.
Mm,
Um, but I went to the church. I went to church. I took the kids to church and we did that. And then my husband became saved and we all went to church together. But it really didn't change because we went on to have probably three more kids after that. It was still I mean, he was there to catch the babies. He was thrilled when they were born. Don't get me wrong. He loves his children. But to tell him I was pregnant it was very fearful for me. And I, until I went through Forgiven and Set Free, I didn't realize why.
Oh gosh. So let's talk about that for a minute because that's a long period of years because you now have how many grandchildren?
12.
12. I think the last I
12
heard was
grandchildren.
11. So congratulations. Um, and so you have a lot of children, you have a lot of grandchildren, and the first thing you did was ask God for forgiveness for your abortion. So did you feel forgiven in those moments? Did you kind of know it? Did you just believe it? And then you went through forgiveness set free, not because you necessarily felt like you needed it, but because I asked you to go through it so you could be on
Right.
our board. So kind of tell us about that.
Oh, that was an interesting process because it's not yes, I was forgiven, but I wasn't set free.
Mm,
If that makes sense.
yeah, 100%.
There was still so much that I had no idea was laying underneath
Okay.
um, some of the things. And I think the biggest thing that happened going through the study was like after one of the sessions, I just talked to my husband about he was in the other room and I was doing this study and I said I go I never really felt like you cared like one way or the other. Like it was nothing to you. And
Mm.
he started crying.
Oh,
Oh yeah. It was like he goes, I did. He goes, and I think about it all the time because I know it was because of me. And I went, ooh, I had
wow.
no idea he even thought about that.
Oh,
Honestly.
because men hold it so differently.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. And so not only did I go through forgiven and set free, he did too. And
Wow.
things have completely changed.
Wow.
And we're celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary this
Are
year.
you? That is
Yes.
amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, and I just told you my age.
We'll all
Um,
forget it.
that's okay. Nobody else will. We're both turning 70 this year as well. So it's
Okay, if anybody could see you, I would never have guessed that, Karen.
ah, well,
So
yeah, true.
you
It
look
is
you
true.
look fantastic. You know, you you talked about well, so we've talked about kind of like, you dealt with some things with the Lord, but then you came through forgiven and set free and like it uncovered all this stuff. When I asked you, I want you to go through this so you know what we're doing and you understand where we're at. Did you have any inclination that you needed more healing? Were you
Not
resistant in any way?
um it was what did we did the intensive, so it was
Yeah.
2 full days, right?
Yeah.
Three, two. Um, it was setting aside the time of just um, you know, opening up 2 days, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll do it because it's Mindy.
Ah,
I'll do it just for her. And I mean, the first session, I knew it was not for Mindy, it was for me.
yeah.
It was for me, and it just built and built and built, and saying goodbye to the babies, and all of that was just yeah, it was very, very healing. And one of the reasons why I am involved with an even
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So,
And then the surprise healing of your husband. I mean, I know for him that probably was just like letting the floodgates finally open and, speaking something that he probably didn't ever want to speak from his heart. Because, I mean, that's how we feel, right? We don't ever want to speak about these things. We don't ever want to express those emotions because the fear of them flooding over us is very, very real. But the reality is the emotion doesn't destroy us. It actually heals us when we
mhm.
finally let it flow. So, oh, how beautiful for the two of you. I mean, I remember that weekend. It was so sweet. To have you come back in and share that report. It was just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So a lot of times people go through healing, women or men, they go through healing and then they want to get involved, but we kind of did it backwards with you. We talked about it and you're like, I'm like, you want to be on our board? Because I was just forming the board at that time. So what really was the cause for you wanting to get involved? Because at that point you didn't know what the healing could be or that it, what it even looked like in somebody, including yourself.
I knew enough about what you were doing to know that feeling forgiven was a huge part of the healing. But there are so many other aspects of abortion that are never discussed,
Mm.
really. But they're there,
Like
and
what? What are some things you're thinking of?
oh, I would almost have to go through. Um, like part of the depression about it and the anger over it and like who are you angry with
Mm.
and
Digging
why
in.
and taking responsibility I guess
Mm.
is is huge even though I don't know that um there were a lot of different aspects of why I actually went through with having an abortion. um it really all got back to pride for me,
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
it's yeah, there's just I don't know. Let's see. I don't know.
that's okay. You've touched on quite a few. What was the hardest part of going through this group for you?
Probably writing the letter, reading the letter, and doing the memorial.
Yeah,
Because it really puts a face on it,
yeah, it does.
you know?
Makes it real.
Yeah. And
It's hard for most women.
yeah. I have the birth dates in my phone and
Oh,
on
that's
repeat.
awesome.
So I always yeah, so I know,
Yeah.
I know the days and it I know I'll see them in heaven.
Yes. And you never considered naming your children prior to that group?
Mm.
You
No.
never considered what their gender was?
I always felt like the first one was a girl.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. How many girls do you have right now?
I have
Five girls
five
and
girls and two boys.
two boys.
Mhm.
So, thank you, Karen. You come on, you spend some time with us talking about your story, sharing your story. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to do that because you don't know who's going to be listening. But I appreciate not just this, but I appreciate everything you do for an even place. Just the moment we became friends and God brought us together for a very specific reason through that coaching course. And here we are today doing an even greater work than that coaching course allowed us, but that helped us. It certainly helped us. What would be some closing encouragement that you might give to any of the ladies that are listening to this?
Well, I think that going through the program will be surprising to you to for the amount of healing that actually happens. Um, and it's an ongoing process. There's a lot of emotion around it, and that's okay. It's good.
Mhm.
I cried a lot going through this. And even just earlier when we were talking, it brings up a lot of emotion and
Mhm.
because it means something.
Yes.
Um, it's just to me, it's so fascinating how God orchestrates our time and for such a time as this.
Yeah.
And I just would encourage you not to wait. I waited a long time. Well, I didn't know about it for one thing. And then but God brought me at just the right time to go
Mhm.
through the program. Um, so I just don't think it's ever too late, and I
No,
don't think it's ever too early. I would just encourage anyone that's had an abortion to to go through the program. Anyone, men could go through the men's
that's
program too.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good word, Karen. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. This podcast was inspired by the many conversations had through the years with women struggling from the emotional pain associated with abortion. Thank you for allowing us into your healing journey. Subscribe on major platforms where podcasts can be heard. Learn more about virtual abortion recovery healing at www.anevenplace.com. The link is in the show notes.